Don't panic. Don't panic. Jason Whitlock, I'm here. It's my voice you're hearing. But you're looking at a man that, if you have ever loved the NBA, if you've ever followed the NBA, you recognize that face. Now, he's been on a milk carton, and no one knows where he's been. After 36 years of service as one of the top NBA referees of all time, he has more service than every NBA referee, I think, except for Dick Bavetta and Joey Crawford, who have both retired. The man you're looking at, Ken Mauer, 36 years of service, run out of the NBA this season by Adam Silver, the vaccine mandates, and all of this COVID nonsense we've had going on in America. Welcome Ken Mauer to Fearless with Jason Whitlock. I am Jason Whitlock. Welcome to a very special edition of Fearless with Jason Whitlock. Happy Tuesday to you and yours. We have one guest and one guest only because no one's heard Ken Mauer's story. Ken Mauer is right there with Dick Bavetta, Joey Crawford, a man who has spent the majority of his life refereeing high-profile NBA basketball games, and somehow this year, poof, Ken Mauer disappeared. And no one has said a word about it. No one in the media has tracked it. Hey, what happened to that guy that was with our league for 36 years? Right there with Joey Crawford and Dick Bavetta. He just disappeared, not working this season. No one in the media asking a question. No, it's an open secret in the NBA what happened to Ken Mauer and what has happened to other NBA referees who either initially declined the vaccine, some of them folded, but not Ken Mauer. Ken, thank you for joining us here in Nashville. And I want to help share your story because there's a lot of things we can talk about what's going on in the NBA. But first and foremost, I would like to know, what have you been doing this year? I know you're 66, even though you look 46.
Thank you.
But what have you been doing this year, and what happened? Why did you get run out of the league?
Well, first of all, thanks, Jason, for having me. I appreciate it. Always been a big fan of yours, but it can't be explained in a short amount of time. You're right. I've been working out a lot. I've been riding a bike a lot. I've actually been in the weight room a lot. I'm certainly not a weightlifter or anything like that, but I've been trying to stay in shape. And yeah, it's true. Since I'll try to explain it as best I can why I'm in the situation I'm in. But basically, I guess I never thought that my faith in our Lord Jesus Christ would prevent me or stop me or get in the way of me refereeing NBA basketball games. And that's about it in a nutshell. And that's what's happened. And not to just me, but other people. We were, offered a one-year contract at the beginning of this season. Our union, our executive board came to the staff with a one-year contract. But in that one-year contract, we had to mandate, or the league was requesting that we mandate all of us taking the vaccine. And it was a shock to all of us, or to a lot of us, because last year, through a much more difficult time, even through the bubble, referees were given the option to either take the vaccine or you could test. Last year, Jason, I tested 4 times on game days.
4 times? Each game day you tested 4 times?
4 times, because I had chosen not to take the vaccine. And back then, the booster wasn't in play yet. But off days we'd test. At home we'd test. But on game days, I would literally test as many as 4 times on game days. And
because you wanted to, or because the league required that?
Really, the league mandated it.
Gotcha.
And really, I understood the position they were in. Nobody knew anything about this so-called pandemic, and nobody knew anything. And I'm very non-political. I don't get politically involved, but the NBA this is what they felt they had to be doing. They were being advised by different doctors and stuff like that. So you know what? I work for my employer. My employer wants me to test, I'll test. Because I was, adamant through my faith that I would never take this vaccine. So I was okay with testing. And so all last year, myself and several of us, we tested. And I never had a problem with the COVID, none whatsoever. And then we finished the season, went through all the playoffs, and then through the summer months, I'm not here to speak for Adam. I have a lot of respect for Adam, but for whatever reason, he changed his stance on a lot.
Adam Silver.
Adam Silver at one time felt that we all could. He was never going to mandate it. He was going to allow people to. That was a decision that each person could make. It was our civil liberties that he didn't want to infringe on. So that was the stance he took. For whatever reason, he and the NBA changed, and going into this season, it was mandated that you take the vaccine or you would not be allowed to referee in the NBA.
So why would the referees be treated different from the players? It's not mandated for the players. Why would it be mandated for the referees?
I don't know, and that's a question I know our union asked. I know our union representatives asked. I know every referee's asked that, and they wanted everybody to take the vaccine. And I don't know why. I have a lot of respect for the Players Association. I'm glad that they made it a personal choice. I know most of them have, but I know a lot of them didn't want to. Let's make it very clear here that a lot of the players didn't want to, and a lot of the referees didn't want to. And so, but the NBA, you're going to have to ask them. I have not had any contact with them whatsoever since last September, October. They have never, I have hired an attorney, as a few of us have, and I'll get into that too, what happened with that situation. But I hired an attorney to basically represent my rights, and so I'm filing an appeal with the EOC that's coming up in the next 60 days. But it's been very frustrating for me and my wife and my family, and I can't explain it. I went from 25 days on the road to being home every day. So your initial question was very well received in that I really don't know how to answer it. In that I'm bored. I get bored to death because when you've been doing something for 43 years with the NBA, it's something you love to do, and it's part of you. So it was very difficult to go from 25 days on the road to doing nothing and seeing your comrades working games and stuff like that, and you're not doing anything. And
so 36 years as an NBA ref. I think you just said 43 years of service.
Well, initially I went to camps around the country. So when I was 24 years old, I got hired to work the CBA, which was the old Eastern League, which was directly affiliated with the NBA. Always has been. Now it's called the G League. And so I worked 6 years in the minor leagues, and then was hired in 1986 to work in the NBA. So if you want to say 37, 43, whatever, there were 6 years in the minors, and now there's been 36 in the NBA.
So you go into this year with 36 years of service. I believe the next person close to you in service didn't have quite 30 years.
I think you're right. I was trying to think that coming over here today, and I know Billy Spooner, a good friend of mine, great guy. Billy just retired, and I think Billy was approaching, I think Billy might have had, I'm not sure, 30, 31, 32, whatever. And then the next man or woman to him was, I don't know if anybody's got 30, maybe 28, 29. I know Michael Smith he might have 29 or 30, and he might be the next one.
And so you're associated with the NBA for 36 years. We went to dinner last night. I saw people come up to you, instantly recognize your face, associate you with the NBA. Again, Dick Pavetta, Joey Crawford. Joey Crawford was kind of controversial, so everybody knew Joey Crawford. Dick Pavetta refed until age 72. Great friends with Charles Barkley. But 36 years of service, no one from the NBA. You just vanished from the league, and Adam Silver, people around the league aren't reaching out to you, concerned, trying to talk you into changing your mind, or just I'm kind of amazed that all the people that cover the NBA and have covered it for a long time, I I don't understand why your story isn't out there. I get that the players and Kyrie Irving and his story and Andrew Wiggins and his initial refusal. I get that the players are bigger names, but you got 36 years. You're as associated with the NBA as anybody. Why are you being ignored by the NBA media?
I don't know. I don't know if it's totally being ignored. First of all, we as referees have always been kind of and been told to not have as much, not talk to the media. And even when I was working employed by them, they'd want you to go through referee ops, even if you were to answer a question after a game concerning a player or whatever. And I understand all that. I think that's the way it should be. But I don't know that the media knows. I mean, I've never been one to actually reach out to the media a lot, and none of us have really. But I'm very friendly with a lot of people within our so-called family. But I don't know if they just don't see me, they just, if they don't see you, they don't know. Well, Kenny, maybe he just hasn't come here this year in different arenas. I really don't know why they haven't. Maybe they don't feel it's a story. I don't know. But I think all of this is a story. I think all of this there's a reason for all of this. And I'm certainly not afraid to be able to tell you and any that want to listen, what's going on and why it's going on. And I think it's a shame. I think it's a shame for several reasons. But I would not have hesitated to talk to them. I would have been very professional. But I would have. I'm not here to blame anybody. But I think it could have been handled differently.
A mutual friend connected us. Why are you speaking out today? Why are you comfortable now talking about what has happened to you?
Well, first of all, I'm comfortable with you, and I'm not blowing smoke or anything like that. I'm comfortable with you. I really believe that the real message will get out, and it's not that I have never not been willing to talk. I mean, your freedom of speech. You're allowed to be able to say what's happened. I'm not ashamed of what I'm doing. In fact, I'm very proud of what I'm doing. I'm very proud of my faith. I'm very proud, and the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing, I think people have to hear that, because I think a lot of what I'm no different, Jason, than the truck driver, than the school teacher, than the healthcare worker, than the person working construction, whatever, that they don't either medically or religiously don't feel like taking the vaccine, and now they're being forced to, or else they're going to lose their job. And I think that's a shame. And there's many referees that didn't want to take the vaccine, and there's many referees that were forced to because they have children, they have families, and they have bills to pay. And I'm not going to get into the NBA and their position. You'll have to talk to them. I'm not here to even talk negatively about the NBA, but because that's not why I'm here. I'm here to say that there's a lot of people that didn't want to take this in the NBA, that you call it whatever you want, coerced, forced, and now they're taking it, and now there's boosters, and they're scared. And I'm not, and because I'm not going to ever take that, and for reasons that we will get into, and I've always been willing to explain it to people, but some people just don't know to ask. Some people don't want to hear the truth, and some people are afraid of the truth. And but I would like to explain it to anybody, because I'm proud of what a lot of the referees were standing for, and what Mark Ayotte is the other referee now that's appealing it to the...
Mark who?
Mark Ayotte, Ayyotte. Mark is a good friend of mine, hell of a guy, family man, good referee. He's from Phoenix, Arizona. He's also one, it started with, and I'll get into it, it started with like 19 guys, men and women. And then it went down to 17. 17 voted against the mandate. And then there were 8 or 9 of us we actually went and hired our own attorney, because we didn't like the procedure that was set up through the union and the NBA. We didn't like, and we'll get into that, and for good reason. And so there's 8 or 9 of us. Well, then they denied all of our religious exemptions. To the best of my knowledge, there isn't an NBA employee that's been granted a religious or medical exemption. To the best of my knowledge. I'm not as affiliated with management, because I just don't deal with a lot of people from management. But there was 8 or 9 of us referees that went out and hired one of the frontline doctor, lawyers, wonderful people, wonderful man, his name is Sheldon Karasik. He's representing me and representing all of us. But there was 6 or 7 of them, and it ended up caving, folding, whatever you want. And I have such great respect for them. I know why they did it. They for financial reasons, or they were just starting their career, or they couldn't afford to stay out. For whatever reasons, and they're great people. They ended up going, and they didn't want to, but they had to take the vaccine. And now they're being forced to take boosters. So Mark and I said, no, we're not going to do that. And we're moving forward. And like I said, we have our appeal with the EOC when you file an appeal, which we did at the end of October of 2021, the EOC has 180 days to hear your appeal. Well, they're so backlogged with all these people now, because all the mandates are being dropped and all the EOC mandates are being dropped. A lot of people are filing lawsuits with the EOC. So the backlog is incredible, according to Sheldon. And so we're waiting our turn. But they have to give you an answer or be into the process within 180 days. Well, I'm into my 4th month, which means I have less than 60 days left before they'll hear my story.
And so you've referred to your religious faith as your objection to the vaccine. Explain that to me and the audience. Why on religious principle, I think you're a Catholic, why on religious principle are you opposed to the vaccine?
Well, people don't talk about their religious faith very often until they're put on, being questioned. I don't really feel like, and I'm going to, of course. I'm very proud to say, God lives in all of us. It's a private matter. People shouldn't even have to explain why they're of a Baptist faith, or a Muslim faith, or a Catholic faith, or a Jewish faith. I mean, that's personal. But with what's going on now, you're being forced to file a medical or religious exemption and state, basically your religious beliefs. And the thing that bothers me the most is they take that piece of paper or whatever you're filing, and they try to find fault with it, or they try to turn things around and make something of what you've said political, and therefore they're going to come at you and they're going to deny your exemption because they're saying that you're really filing this exemption more so for political matters than religious matters. And that's the furthest thing from the truth with me. I'm not political at all. In fact, I don't really have great respect for politics or politicians. Everything is so-called politically correct now, and I hate that term, because politically correct 99% of the time doesn't make it correct now, does it? And so I don't get into that. It's because of my faith in my Lord Jesus Christ. I mean, what they don't want to talk about is that it's the mRNA, which I'm a big fan of Dr. Malone. Dr. Malone is the inventor of mRNA. I mean, my wife...
One of the inventors,
that's correct. But my wife and I have done so much research. I mean, I've tried to educate myself so much, Jason, and on all of what's involved with this so-called vaccine. And my wife Danielle and I will never take it. The mRNA that's in this vaccine, whether people want to believe it or not, screws with or has effect with your own RNA or /DNA. It changes your DNA. It changes who you are as a human being. Well, our Lord Jesus Christ created you. That's you, Jason. That's the way you are. Our Lord created you. And to
McDonald's has changed my DNA, but I'm working on that. But go ahead.
Well, McDonald's can't take they can't take any credit for creating you. But that's good. That's funny. But this vaccine is shooting mRNA into your system, which is altering your DNA. That's against what every Christian believes in. That's against our faith. This is the way God created us. This is it. This is what I got. I'm not saying I can't get stitches, or I can't repair a knee or something. That has nothing to do with your DNA, who you are as a human being. And that's what this vaccine is doing to people. And I won't allow that to happen to me. It's got aborted fetal cells, whether it be in the testing stage or in the actual ingredient. That's one of the reasons that the NBA denied my religious exemption, because they said the 2 out of the 3 vaccines have aborted fetal cells, 1 does not. Therefore, Maurer should take that. That's not true. And doing our appeal, we'll gladly have one of the representatives from that company there saying, yes, it does have aborted fetal cells in it. So, I mean, I don't believe in abortion.
not disagreeing with you.
Go ahead.
I just want to add,
Please.
for the benefit of the audience and the whole misinformation gang, I've yesterday read up, this morning read up, trying to get to the bottom of the aborted fetal stuff. I found a website this morning that, had some information. It was from a guy that's saying he's a practicing Catholic, that says that in the testing process, maybe they're using fetuses from 50, 60 years ago and things. But I just want to add that people have a different story. But anyway, I'm not disputing your narrative. I want to understand your thinking and why on religious principle you disagree. So continue.
Well, first of all, it doesn't really, and I haven't read that article. I'd love to read it. But it doesn't really matter whether it's 2 days ago or 20 years ago that it was an aborted fetal cell. First of all, let's make that very clear. And second of all, whether it be in testing, and yes, it was used in testing, but it was also used in the ingredients. And I don't believe in abortion. So first of all, my wife and I are also very healthy. We're very organic. Everybody that knows me, they make fun of me because of the way I eat on the road and because of the thing. I don't take sugar, I don't take gluten, no GMOs, no preservatives. And
I tried to take you to McDonald's yesterday, you refused.
I would have gone with you. Probably had a salad. So when we probably wouldn't take it just because of the healthy standpoint involved with the ingredients in this vaccine. However, when you read the ingredients and you see what's in it, and again, if someone wants to take the vaccine, Jason, it's okay with me. That's the political thing I want. It has nothing to do with my decision. If you want to take it, take it. If you believe that's going to make you healthier, then take it. But what bothers me is people that I'm supposed to respect somebody that doesn't take the vaccine, but then they don't want to respect somebody that takes the vaccine, but they don't have to respect somebody that doesn't. I don't understand that. That's what's dividing our country. And then when you talk about that, now you're getting into political. Well, we can talk about that if you'd like, but I have opinions on that. I'm allowed to have opinions on that. I'm allowed to have opinions about politics. I'm allowed to have opinions on Roe versus Wade. That's why we live in this country. We can all have our own opinions on things. But when it comes time to the vaccine, I have been a Christian my entire life. I am a practicing Catholic. Hey, I know what the Pope said. The Pope supposedly endorsed the vaccine. That's one man. There's several cardinals who have also come out and chastised him for doing that. I
don't fully understand the Catholic religion, but the Pope has endorsed it, but it's not like a full-throated endorsement, or he hasn't made it some kind of Catholic law. There's more he could do. It's kind of a half-hearted.
That's correct.
Am I?
Yes, you're right. But again, they will take from it what they want. So the media, the public will say, well, the Pope said it's okay to take it, or the Pope said he took it, or the Pope says you should take. Whatever the Pope says, he supposedly endorsed the vaccine. And that's okay. The Pope doesn't make the decisions for me in my Catholic faith either, because my priest or several priests or several cardinals have come out and said, I don't understand really so-called blah, 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 his feeling. However, we are not for this vaccine for the same reasons, of course, that I am. But again, that's all individual. Your faith is based on you. It's an individual thing. It's from the soul. It's from the heart. It's what you believe. And with all due respect, Jason, I'm not going to criticize you about your faith or vice versa. And I have a real difficult time with an employer criticizing an employee's faith. Who are they? They have no idea if and when I was baptized, if and when I received my first Holy Communion, if and when I was confirmed. They have no idea if I was married in a Catholic church. They have known nothing about my Catholic faith. I attend service every Sunday, have for my entire life, my wife and I. When I'm on the road, I go to service. Everybody knows this. I mean, I could go on and on and on and on. I don't know why I'm supposed to explain to my employer, and that, if I have sincere religious beliefs, that's it. And for them to try to knock your religious belief or turn your religious belief around, or turn your, what may be a medical exemption around, that's their right. They're the employer, but that's why so many people have lost their jobs. And But what you have to do is you have to fight them. You have to stand up for your rights, and you have to appeal it, which is what I'm doing.
So during this back and forth beefing with the NBA since September, October about this, there was an arbitration process that you decided not to participate in, and I believe it's Leroy Richardson he did participate in the arbitration scenario, but explain your reason why you didn't want to do the arbitration and what happened with Leroy.
I would love to. The NBA, our union came to us end of the summer, and said that the NBA is going to mandate all of us taking the vaccine. You have to take the vaccine. And however, for those that don't want to take the vaccine, you can file a religious or medical exemption. And so, they asked, any of those had to be done by such and such a time. And the process that they then came up with it, if you are denied that religious or medical exemption, you can then have it appealed or have it arbitrated. And the arbitration process they set up was that there would be a 3-person panel. One person would be from our union, a member of our union. And I don't know if he wants me mentioning his name. I will. Brent Barnick. He's a personal friend of mine. He's just a wonderful man, great family man, man of faith, very good referee, just a good guy. And so he was representing, the executive board asked Brent to represent our union. Well, then the NBA had a representative from their side. So they had, I believe, Mr. Mishkin, Jeff Mishkin was a lawyer from the NBA that represented the NBA. And then a third, which was the important one. Let's be honest here. The NBA is going to vote one way, and Brent or our union probably going to vote another way to stick up. So it's all going to be dependent on who, the arbitrator. So it was initially brought to our attention that the arbitrator would be picked by the 2 other panel members, which would be the lawyer and Mr. Barnicky. That didn't come out that way. What the attorney for our union, who was part of setting up this appeal process with the NBA, and the NBA's lawyer picked the arbitrator. By this time, we, referees, had already had our lawyer set up, and we wanted our lawyer to have some input in maybe the arbitrator. He gave 1 or 2 suggestions. He wasn't even answered. He wasn't even given the common courtesy to have his request answered. So basically, the lawyer for our union and the NBA's lawyer picked the arbitrator. I don't even know, it's a woman from Philadelphia. She's, I would consider her probably to be a liberal, and she believes 5-year-olds should get the vaccine. So we did not feel, in discussing with our lawyer, that was a very good option. We didn't think that was going to come out very well. We didn't think that was going to be fair. We didn't think that was going to turn out real well. So the 8 or 9 of us that hired our lawyer, Mr. Karasik, to represent us, he said, gentlemen, you can do whatever you want, but I'm recommending you do not do that you file, 1 sentence, 1 paragraph saying, I choose not to be a part of that appeal process. Leroy, on the other hand, never came with us. He wanted to stay by himself. He wanted to represent himself. He wanted to have the executive board's legal counsel represent him. So Leroy filed his religious exemption with the union, and his appeal was heard the other day, and he was denied. So in other words, exactly what happened, exactly what our lawyer said was going to happen, happened. And now Leroy has 3 choices, which was also part of the process if you chose not to take the vaccine. Leroy either takes the vaccine and goes back to work next year, doesn't take the vaccine and he retires, or he files an appeal with the EEOC, which is just what I started to do 4 months ago. So I felt that I would get, and I will, I felt that the EEOC is a fair body. It's a judicial system that basically is, they listen to the rights of the employee, and we felt our chances were better to file it there. And because you're employed in New York, you have to file it with the EEOC in New York, which I'm doing. So, and the thing that was so frustrating is, and I brought some of the documents with me, is they actually admit in the denial letter that they believe Leroy to be a very religious man, and they believe his religious exemption to be sincere, and they believe him to be a man of faith, and they believe him to be so on and so forth. And yet they still denied him. And I think it's terrible. And Mr. Barnaky wrote a dissent letter on behalf of the union that was unbelievable. I called up Brent and I told Brent, I said, wow, I wish I could write like that. I mean, Brent used to be a lawyer. Brent was a lawyer for 10 years before he became an NBA referee, and just a real smart guy. But I was just so proud of him because he wrote a letter standing up for Leroy and our board, our group, just saying this was denied. Basically, they said that, I don't know how to, I have it here in front of me, you can read it, but basically his political beliefs basically overshadowed his religious beliefs. Well, again, I'm allowed to have a political belief, but my political beliefs have nothing to do with what I'm doing. It doesn't matter, whatever my employer tells me to do, as far as a rule or a law or politically, I do because I'm employed by them. But they're not going to, it has nothing to do with my religious beliefs. Those are my beliefs. Those are what I feel. And no one's going to change my faith in my Lord. No one's going to tell me, how to preach my own faith. No one's going to do that. And so I can have an opinion, as I said earlier, on who I think the prettiest girl in the room is, or something about who I think is going to win the NBA title, or who I think is going to be the next president. I can have opinion, but to say that gets in the way of my religious beliefs is just not true. And it wasn't true with Leroy either, and it's a shame he was denied, and it's, I guess Sheldon, he hasn't been wrong yet. He was right again, and that it's difficult for an arbitrator to separate their opinion from the law. And I'm not going to get into the law, but I think that's what was done here.
You and I don't know if this makes you political or not, and it doesn't, but it's just an observation. You sound very similar to, and you kind of referenced it, but you sound similar to the guys up in Canada that are driving these trucks and got the Freedom Convoy going. What do you think about those guys and what they're doing?
Well, if I was Canadian, I'd be really proud of them right now. In fact, I told my wife the other day, I will never, ever question what a trucker charges me to ship something again in my life. Whatever he charges, I'm going to pay it, whatever it is. I'm so proud of them. And again, people in Canada are getting it. People have to understand, do you know why those truckers are fighting for their entire group? Most of them are vaccinated. And they're fighting for freedom. They're fighting for
Why aren't we doing that here?
Well, I'd like to ask that question to my union, to our union, my referees union. Why? If there was 17 or 19 out of 73 referees that didn't want to take the vaccine, why didn't we all stay together and say, I'm sorry, with due respect, NBA, we're not going to take this vaccine. The players didn't have to take it. We certainly wouldn't have had to take it. And then every referee could have had their choice. There's a woman referee on the staff that was pregnant. And so she didn't want to take the vaccine. So of course, when you're pregnant, she was allowed to, she didn't have to work, and she just gave birth to a beautiful child, and she's a wonderful person, good referee, and she's a young referee. And now I don't know what she's going to do. I haven't talked to her. Is she going to come back? Is she going to now take the vaccine? I don't know what she's going to do, but she shouldn't have to make that decision. If she doesn't choose to take the vaccine, she shouldn't. She wants to have other children. She doesn't want to take the vaccine. So I'm so proud of those truckers, and I think it may be coming in our country too. It would be. I would hope it would. But they're standing up for their country. They're standing up for their fellow citizens. They're standing up for their fellow truckers, saying, if you want to take the vaccine, take the vaccine. But it shouldn't be mandated, and we want our freedoms back. And I'm proud of them.
What is unique about the NBA Referees Association? Because I don't believe, and you should know better than I do, but I don't believe the NFL and Major League Baseball umpires, referees in the NFL, they're not mandated.
I believe you're right. I'm not sure about hockey because of Canada. Canada is very restrictive. I'm not sure. I would never want to tell anything that I didn't know for a fact, but I'm not sure about the hockey referees. I believe they are. But the last I heard, unless they've changed, the Major League Baseball and NFL referees were not mandated to take the vaccine. And again, I'm not on the executive board. The executive board does a lot of work behind the scenes with every union, and I don't know what precipitated what and what went on. But we did not have to take this, we did not have to be mandated to take this vaccine, because probably a lot of the referees would have chosen to take it. And that's okay. If the referees want to take the vaccine, I think that that's perfectly okay. But the 17 or 19 or, the women or that didn't, there's a couple of women that didn't want to take it as well. We shouldn't have been made to take it. And that's what has caused a lot of friction. It's caused a lot of, there's a lot of referees. I mean, they'll never tell this to management because, they're I don't know if scared is the right word, but they just have to, do what their employer tells us, but they don't want to be taken, and they don't want to take the boosters, and they're being forced to. So it's just...
Tell me this.
And all the referees, what I'm afraid of, Jason, excuse me for interrupting, is how about all the young referees that are coming in? They're going to be coming into the NBA. Now, it's common knowledge that, I'm not going to get into the law, but, if you're already employed and you terminate somebody due to the vaccine, that person can fight. But, if somebody, what about a young referee that wants to come into the league? Are they going to be mandated to take that vaccine forever? So I think our union, I wish they would have thought it through, and I wish they would have said, we're not only standing up for 17 referees that choose not to, but we're standing up for every other referee from now until kingdom come that may choose not to take the vaccine in the future. But they never asked my opinion.
Do you think, because it seems like, speculation on my part, but my reading of the way the wind's blowing, it seems like the pandemic is over. States are relaxing their mask mandates and other mandates. And so next season, do you think that everybody's going to be required to take the boosters?
I don't know, Jason. Great question. I don't know. The way it was set up, we had to sign a 1-year this is the last of our 7-year contract. So we signed it like an addendum, whatever you want to call it. It's a 1-year contract. So in September, October, the group, our union is going to be negotiating another contract, whether it be a 1-year, 3-year, 5-year, 7-year, I don't know. But I don't know what's going to go moving forward. If I plan to win my appeal. I mean, I tell my wife and I, we've already won the appeal. We're doing what we feel is right. We believe this is good versus evil. We really do, and we believe we're on the good side. We believe we're on the right side. We believe we're on God's side. We don't. So I pray to God every night that I win the appeal. But if I don't, we're content and we're happy with what we're doing, and we're both proud of what we're doing. I'm proud of what I'm doing. But if I don't win the appeal, I'm sure that I don't know what they'll do with me. They'll probably want me to retire. But if I do win the appeal, then I don't know what's going to happen with me, or if they're going to mandate it on the new contract or what. Because you're right. I mean, the Supreme Court upheld that the mandate was illegal. They upheld that. They, OSHA's dropped the mandates. Again, do I think a lot of this is political, which I'm not going to get into? We know there's elections coming up in November, and why is everybody dropping this, and boom, 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 what's going to happen the month after? Who knows? I don't want to even get into that. I just wish we deal just with the actual, status of the vaccine and the mandates themselves, but there's always behind the scenes, as you well know more than I do. But I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know if they know, but I didn't want to go out this way as a referee of 36 years. I wanted to referee and go out, the way I wanted to go out. But we'll just have to see what happens.
Has talked about the media kind of ignoring you and your issue, but do you hear from your peers and colleagues? Have you heard from any NBA players like Kenny? What happened? Where'd you go? I've talked with a few colleagues. I think a lot of the referees, it's out of mind, out of sight, out of mind, whatever that quote is. I think a lot of them think that I'm I don't think they think bad guy. They're all good people on the NBA staff. I think they just think, well, he's fighting the league. He's standing up against the league, and I would hope they would be for my civil liberties and hope they would be, for me. But, a lot of them, most of them took the vaccine, and they probably feel that I'm,
he's out there on a ledge, he's by himself, let him stay there. I don't know what they're thinking, but yes, I hear from referees, and I get emails every once in a while, and hey, how you doing? Haven't forgotten you, can't wait to see you back out on the floor, good things like that, because they are good people, but for the most part, they're going through a hell of a time. 65 or 66, the last I heard, out of 73 referees have come down with COVID
even though they're vaccinated
and boosted. Yeah.
They're still getting COVID. Imagine that.
So many more. So many more of them have gotten COVID than we did last year when we were testing than ever before. So not all of them, there were 7 or 8 that haven't, but they've had to miss games and schedule changes, and referees that have been on the road for crazy amounts of times and worked back-to-backs and worked 4 out of 7 nights or 4 out of 6 nights. It's really, and no fault of the NBA. NBA's scratching around trying to reschedule and cover games, and I understand, but there's 4 or 5 people there's 4 people at home right now that would be working right now if they could, and maybe it wouldn't be so tough on all these other referees, but I'm sitting home.
Have you watched much of the NBA?
No, I really haven't. No, I really haven't.
The reason I asked the question is because, again, when you run out someone as experienced as you're having the health problems that people are having and having to miss games, it would have to feel like, if anybody's watching the game closely, the officiating has to be not as good as...
you'll never get me to criticize referee. I know that's not what you're doing, but I mean, they're tired. I mean, they're on the road constantly. I mean, I could tell you some of the flying from here to here and getting a game change when they get in the city and having to fly here, because what they're being asked to do is and I know management is very grateful for what they're doing. It has to be done, but they're tired. I mean, they couldn't wait for the All-Star break. I mean, they couldn't wait for it. But back to your question, I love basketball. I love my profession. I mean, I've done this for most of my life. So, I mean, I don't have to prove to anybody how much I love basketball or love my profession. But it gets a little frustrating when you turn on a game and you wish you maybe were there and refereeing, or that guy's on a back-to-back and maybe I could have worked that game and he could go home with his family, or you think all these things, and then it's just frustrating. I'm just like, it's real strange this year for me, and so I, rather than turn on a game, and I'll turn on a game and then I can't shut it off because I'm watching it, but rather than, I get frustrated sometimes, so it's better not to turn it on, because then I won't, I'll watch a movie with my wife.
What's amazing to me, just as a journalist, there are so many interesting stories, trends, angles to what COVID has done to all of these sports leagues, not just the NBA, but the NFL as well. But it's like we're not allowed to talk about it. No one can discuss what COVID has done to these sports leagues other than everybody put a mask on and play the masquerade game. But in terms of like the things you're bringing out, in terms of, it's first time hearing of it, and I follow the sports world really closely, that all of these different referees have contracted COVID, had to miss. They're overworked, they're overstressed, they're tired. This has to be having an impact on the quality of officiating and the quality of the game. No one says a word. And it I guess it's a reminder of what a tight grip the leagues have over the media, or just how, I'm 54. I been doing this for a long time, and I've seen this transition we're going through where everybody in the media is actually a partner with the league rather than a watchdog of these leagues. And so someone like you can get pulled upon, and our instincts aren't to, well, how can I defend Kenny? He's been with the league for 36 years, loyal employee, great. I don't think you've missed any work for.
I've never missed a game.
Yeah, and so our instincts aren't to defend you and to tell your story. Our instincts, or I wouldn't even say instincts, but our mission seems to be to just pretend like everything's okay and things with the league are great, and to actually protect the institution of the NBA rather than an individual like Ken Mauer.
Well, I think that's true. I mean, I don't think there's any question about that. And I'm the outlier. I'm the rebel. I'm the guy that I didn't succumb to their mandate. I didn't do what they wanted us to do. It would have been easier for everybody had Mauer and Ayat just took the vaccine. I'm going to keep coming back to it. You know, if you're really sincerely at peace with yourself because of your faith and because the NBA has always been. I've looked back for 43 years and I've given up so much. You know, I mean, I got married later in life. I met Danielle later in life, and I married her when I was 51, and 15 years we've been married, and I used to be on the road constantly, and I holidays and all the Christmases you miss, and I wasn't fortunate to have children, but all the guys that miss all of their children's. I mean, you're on the road 25 days a month and you miss your children's recital or your, whatever, all the kids' things that go on Christmases. And before we even had cell phones and computers, guys, it was done on the telephone. You had a pay phone when I first started in the league, And I look back at but I don't regret any of it. I loved it. And I'm proud of what I've done and all the guys that I've worked with and what they've done. It's a great job. I don't know if I do it again. But the point I'm trying to make is that there's always been things more important in my life. Always been. The NBA has not been the most important thing in my life. I think when you have your job or when you have your job, when you have the NBA and that logo is the most important thing in your life, you're empty. There's something wrong with you. There's just you're not a person that's the total package. And so my faith, that's why I'm extremely content and happy with what's going on. And whatever he decides for me, I'm perfectly okay with that, Jace. I really am. I'm doing the right thing. I am not going to alter my DNA. I am not going to take something that has aborted fetal cells. I am not going to do what the Lord doesn't. The Lord wants me to do this, and I'm very content with it. And I'm not the greatest. I wish I was a more religious person. I wish I was better. This has made my faith stronger, and my wife. But my faith has always been before the NBA. My family has always been before the NBA. My wife has always been before the NBA. My friends. I mean, if the NBA is the most important thing, or if your job, what you're doing right now is the most important thing in your life, Jason, you got problems. And I tell that to people. And it's so, this is the culmination of a career that I've had, that I've worked with great people and have been a part of some great games. There's certainly referees that are better than I was. I hope some of the younger referees become better than I am. I know they're going to be. They have to be. I hope they are. Otherwise, they haven't been listening. But that's why it's been good. But a great career. But I just didn't. I'm still frustrated with the fact that what's going on right now. I don't think it has to be going on right now. I think there was a better way to handle it, and for people in general. I'm going to ask you a question, Jason. Why do you think the NBA or any employer offers a religious or medical exemption?
Well, I would think in 2022, it's a part of a standard or custom that they've kind of inherited and would like to get away from. And so I think the religious exemption aspect of it was something that was born of a previous culture we had here in America, when we were more of a Judeo-Christian culture and we were more respectful of religious people. We've become so incredibly secular. There's, Christians are reviled in this country.
Right.
And so that's why I think it's easy for the NBA or I don't want to single out the NBA, any corporation to laugh off religious convictions. Get out of here. And again, to accuse the Leroy Richardson, these are your political beliefs. because they're reflecting their own mindset. They have no religious convictions, so they can't even religious convictions. You must be doing this for political reasons, because that's what motivates me and everything the NBA does or any other major global corporation. Everything we do is driven by politics. Christianity, religious faith, is the last thing we think about. And so, it's reflective of just where our society has gone. And, quite frankly, Ken, I just think it speaks to China's influence over America. And, we've seen that play out from Daryl Morey to LeBron James to the entire league has been, and when I say that about Daryl Morey, it's just Daryl Morey's comments and how they expose the NBA's relationship with China. And so I look at this whole thing, and I know you don't want to talk about the politics, but it's very hard to ignore what's going on in American society, who's really influencing American society. I believe it's China. I believe that our corporations have far more interest in the 1.4 billion consumers in China than the 330 million consumers we have here in America. And I think that the global elites, just to be quite honest with you, prefer the communist dictatorial style of governance, and they want to bring that here. We're seeing it in Canada. Justin Trudeau, on record, admires China and the way they do things, and he's handling things like he's a Chinese dictator or ruler. And I think they're trying to incorporate that here into America, and our media is complicit in it. Because again, the reason I wanted to have you on is because I think you're just a prime example of, we used to value the individual, a hardworking man that was reliable and stayed between the lines and just respect. We used to side with that person over the multi-billion-dollar corporation. And now the media's now got it all reversed. We're out protecting the multi-billion-dollar corporation and taking a dump on you. It's incredible. Listen, we're going to continue the conversation with Ken because there's more to unpack. I haven't even mentioned it. I should have at the very beginning. Although it has nothing to do with this interview, I just got to be transparent and say that Ken has a brother who was my offensive coordinator at Ball State University, Mark Maurer. He played quarterback at Nebraska, and my first 2 years playing football at Ball State in the mid-'80s, late '80s, he was our offensive coordinator. Ken comes from one of the most athletic families, I think, perhaps in America. Ken was an all Big Ten baseball player. His brother was a starting quarterback at Nebraska. Joe Maurer, the baseball star, is your cousin. Your dad was a high school football coach, or?
Yep. For the Brooklyn Dodgers.
Your dad did?
Yeah, played for Walter Alston.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Yeah, and so the Maurers, and that's a picture of them. They all ref together. I think that's you and your you got 5 brothers?
4 brothers. The 5 of us had refereed a high school football game. We never announced it or anything, and somebody found out about it. It was at a high school in Minnesota. Somebody found out about it, so Randy Shaber, good guy, he's one of the sports people in television sports people. He found out about it, came out, and he interviewed all of us because it was like he had never seen, I think we were all over 55, 58 years old, 5 brothers refereeing a high school football game.
And so the other thing I want to unpack a little bit is like, why, or not why, but just what's in Ken's DNA? This is not the first time he has stood up against Goliath. Goliath the giant, yeah. This is not the first time you've stood up against Goliath. In 2000, there was an NBA-related airline ticket scandal, and a lot of people folded, but not Ken. And
So we'll unpack all of that and more, and we may continue on talking about how Ken's been run out of the NBA over the vaccine, but we're going to unpack a little bit more of Ken's story so that you can get a full understanding of who Ken is. But before we do all that, I want to tell you about Z-Stack. Our daily fight against COVID and my daily pursuit of getting in great shape and staying healthy has led me to our friends over at Z-Stack. Z-Stack was formulated by Dr. Vladimir Zelenko, the world-renowned doctor that President Trump credited with his successful early treatment protocol and his decision to take hydroxychloroquine. Z-Stack is a specially formulated immune-boosting supplement that includes zinc, vitamin C, and vitamin D. Z-Stack is kosher, GMP certified, and produced right here in the good old USA. Now is the time for you to start taking back control of your health and the health of your family. Go to zstacklife.com/fearless and enter the promo code fearless to get 5% off your first order. That's zstacklife.com/fearless. Use the promo code fearless at checkout. This is personal to me. Dr. Zelenko, when I had Omicron, helped me out, prescribed me what I needed to quickly recover from the Omicron variant. This Dr. Zelenko is a man of great faith. You guys, fearless soldiers, you need to make the Z-Stack a part of your regular vitamin supplement regimen so we can stay strong and healthy. I use it every day. You should do the same, and you should support a sponsor who supports what we believe in. All right, when we come back, we'll have more with Ken Maurer. Next! All right, welcome back. We're going to continue with our conversation with Ken Maurer, 36-year long NBA referee, associated with the NBA for 43 years, run out of the NBA over its vaccine mandate for NBA referees, not mandated for players. He couldn't do the Kyrie Irving thing. They've just run him out of the league without telling anybody, It's kind of incredible to me, but I want to broaden the conversation because there's more to your life that's interesting like anybody else. But also I think your history shows your DNA. When you believe in something, you just won't back down. Nope. And you had a dispute with the IRS and the government in 2000 over frequent flyer miles. And it's like when I was reading up about the story, I'm like, well, they're talking about $26,000 over 3 years.
That's right.
And they came after this guy this hard over $26,000 and so walk us through, what were their allegations about what you were doing with you and some other referees? You travel a lot, you get frequent flyers, and they're saying it's unreported income?
Yeah, I don't think the NBA's ever wanted too many people to ever talk about this and stuff, and I think it should be talked about. But yeah, back then there was many different ways we were paid for airline. Like today, we're given a stipend. We're given X amount of dollars for every assignment we referee, and then we used to book our own travel. Now we have a travel agency booking travel for us. It's a little different the last couple of years because of the pandemic. But back then, NBA would book us a ticket, a first-class ticket. Back then they changed it and they would give us a ticket. You know, there was different ways that you were paid for your airline, which was airline and per diem was always separate from your salary. So back then, I mean, I came up in the league and I was doing the same thing that referees had done since 1946. For the best of my knowledge, you know, we would get an airline ticket, and I was building a house at the time, trying to save every nickel I had, and I had built up a lot of frequent flyer miles because of all the travel that I had. So the NBA would give us I can't remember back then, Jason, if it was a stipend or a dollar amount. Basically, a lot of times they'd give us a ticket. It'd be a ticket for let's say a first class ticket or a coach ticket, whatever, depending on the amount of, I think anything over 2 hours, whatever it was. And a lot of times I would take and I'd downgrade that ticket and I'd go fly another airline. Or I'd downgrade the ticket, take the money, and I'd use my own frequent flyer ticket. That's basically what we all did. And we would save the difference. And I didn't deny anything with my accountant. I told my accountant, I'm using my own earned frequent flyer. Now, what is a frequent? If you're sitting in 6A and you spent $280 for your ticket, and I'm sitting in 6B and I use the frequent flyer ticket, what's mine worth?
Same as yours.
That's exactly what my accountant said. And everybody said, well, what's the difference? I mean, okay. So we would allot that amount of money for whatever. And the IRS came in and said, no, that's illegal, that you should have been claiming all that money and that you were doing something illegal. You knew you were doing something illegal. I said, I didn't know. No, I didn't know I was doing something. And they came after the entire staff. They had 2 IRS agents, FBI agents, knock on the door the same morning in everybody's house around the country. And so it was, and so a lot of us
Most guys either paid, took a plea, or just settled. Correct?
43 out of 45 took a plea, and Steve Javie and I did not. And Steve Javie's trial was first, and Steve and I went to it. I was there every day. Steve and I had been hired at the same time, very good friends, wonderful man. Steve's now a deacon. He took 7 years of training, and he's now a deacon, and very religious man. Good guy. Just a solid human being. His wife is good people, and a very good referee. And so Steve wouldn't plead either. So him and I would talk all the time. I mean, everybody else pled. And so I was at his trial every day. And Steve won. Steve, they didn't feel that he had done anything that was criminally wrong. Well, they waited and they kept my trial for last. Mine was the last case, the last one over, I can't remember, 2 or 3 year period. And so I hired a lawyer, and I basically, it was the same case as Steve's. Everything was the same. There was no different. Steve's accountant, I remember, got up in the stand and said, I had no idea that Steve was doing that. If he did, I would have advised him to file differently. My accountant got on the stand and said, I knew exactly what he was doing. I don't think he's done anything wrong. Until you can give us a figure on what a frequent flyer ticket is worth, then what has this man done? Tell us what the frequent flyer ticket is worth. We'll alter the return. That's fine. And so he testified on a court of law. They found me guilty of 2 years or counts and innocent of 1, same 3 years. I don't think the jury, in all fairness to them, ever understood what was going on. So they were, of course, everybody wants to put me in jail and all this and that. The NBA stuck behind all of the referees because the ones that had pled, they brought them back to work. Steve naturally went back to work. And then I had gotten community service, and I had gotten I can't remember what it was called, halfway house or whatever it was called. And over a 2 year period, I didn't miss any time from work. But it was a stressful time. It was a difficult time. But I wasn't, I could have, I could have paid them. I was out for almost an entire year, and it cost me a lot of money. And
could have paid the $26,000, no?
They would have allowed me to pay the $26,000, but they still wanted to make me a felon. So I didn't have an option. So I said, if I owe you money, tell me. If I owe you anything, tell me what I owe you. And all of us said that. All the referees said that. And they didn't want. They wanted to make a name. It was called Operation Slam Dunk. That was what it was called with the government. And so they wanted to make a name and this and that. And I wouldn't plead guilty. And I do the same thing again.
That's the curse of, again, people can make a name off of you because associated with the NBA, right, on TV, referees, the whole nine. And so
they had me. The funny thing is they had me. Again, I'm not here to talk about myself personally, but I've never had a drink or a cigarette in my life. I've never had a drug in my life. I've never had a cigarette in my life. I've never had a drink in my life. Guys on the staff make fun of me for that too, but that's okay. They do it in good and fun. My father never drank or smoked, and my father was my hero. So I loved my father very much, and all of my brothers did, my sister, and he never drank, and he never smoked. And so we just grew up that way. It's just something hey, I'd have a glass of ginger ale, make it look like it was a drink so that I wouldn't offend somebody that might be drinking at the party or something. So never a big deal. And to this day, I don't drink. They had me, I was a drug dealer.
Who had you?
Oh, the government. I built a big log home in Minnesota, and that's what I was building during this time. It took me 12 years to build it. Every nickel, and I worked on it constantly throughout a 12-year period. My wife and I are she's decorating it and stuff. It's kind of like our dream house. Anyway, so
you have a dream house in Minnesota.
Yeah.
I didn't know. You're the person. I'd heard that there was a person that dreamed of having a home in Minnesota. It's too cold in Minnesota.
Oh, you
man.
got that right. I moved to Florida in 2003. It's the best thing I ever did. I've been homesteaded there. I met my wife, but my brothers helped me build this. My father helped me build this. But they had me showing pictures in the courtroom of here's his home, and he's been money laundering, and he's been a drug dealer, and that's how he could afford this home. That's how they portrayed me. That's how they portrayed me in the trial. You can ask the guys. A lot of the guys were there that came to the trial. And so, that was a little bit of a crazy time, but I do the same thing again. I was proud of Steve. I was proud of all of our referees because our referees, none of them wanted to plead. They didn't. They were scared or whatever, and we didn't knowingly do anything wrong. They just wanted to use us as like I say. And so I do the same thing again. I was proud of Steve. Steve just had a luckier jury than me, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, that's wow. But I try to tell people that the criminal justice system will go after whoever will get them the best headlines, the best stats or whatever, and it's you'd be surprised who can be victimized by the IRS or whatever.
Well, I don't have a lot of common knowledge of that, but because I've been, but then again I do. So I just didn't quite understand it. Who am I? I blow a whistle for a living. It's no big deal. I mean, to me, and yet they think they can use that because it had the word NBA on it, and the NBA tried to stay as removed from it as they could, and I understood that, but it just wasn't good for anybody.
Tell us about your family, your upbringing, your mom and dad, your 4 brothers, and this great athletic family you come from.
Well, I remember one time, and I'll never forget this in my whole life because I'm very proud of it. Herb Brooks was a friend of our family. Herb Brooks was from St. Paul.
Herb Brooks, the hockey coach.
Yes. And I remember one time
the Miracle on Ice
Yes,
coach.
yes.
Right.
He and by the way, if I ever meet Kurt Russell, which I never have, but I would love to see him. I'm not one of these, I can't wait to meet this actor guy. They're human beings just like everybody. I could care less. But he has to be told by somebody that actually knew Mr. Brooks personally, the job he did. He was unbelievable in that role. His mannerisms, his clothes, and the way, whatever, he just was so good at what he did. I'd love to see him at a game sometime because I've walked right in the stands and said something to people, that actor who did the sequel to the Rocky movies. What's his name? Recently, good actor. Pardon me?
Michael B. Jordan?
Yes, great. So he had just done the one. I just seen it the night before in L.A. So I went over to him. He was in courtside. I said, Michael, you were tremendous last night. I'm telling you something. And your girlfriend was unreal too. I mean, we just sat there and talked about. I think they do good work, and when they do good work, they should be told they do good work. I could care less. He was, an actor. He's, Kenny, geez, Howard, nice to meet you. Anyway, he was a very nice man. But anyway. I kind of lost my
about Herb Brooks.
Yeah, we're sitting in the sauna at the University of Minnesota. He was coaching the University of Minnesota at the time, and I was on a baseball scholarship at the University of Minnesota. I think I told you Paul Molitor was on our team. Paul's a good friend, of course, and I think Paul Holmgren was playing for Herb at the time. Anyway, so we're sitting and I'm wet behind the ears. I'm a punk kid. I'm sophomore in college, whatever I was. And I'm sitting there, and I couldn't, there's Herb, with all the coaches, and he goes, gentlemen, I want you to know that this young man is part of the greatest athletic family that's ever come out of St. Paul and that ever will come out of St. Paul. I'll never forgot that in my whole life. It was because of my father and my uncles and my grandfather. Believe me, I mean, we all tried to.
You told me your dad's resume, your uncle.
My dad played knew Mr. Mikan very well, played in the old ABA. My dad played for the Brooklyn Dodgers when he was 16 years old.
Whoa. You said your dad played basketball too? Is that what you just said?
Yes.
He played with George Mikan?
He played with the Mikan family, yes. He played it was an old ABA league before there was an ABA league. He played, he knew Mr.
Then he played baseball as well.
When he was 16 years old, he was drafted by the Brooklyn Dodgers, and in the summer after he'd get out of school at Cretin High School, same school Joe went to, he would hop on a train and go to Brooklyn, New York, and he played single, double, he got to AAA ball, and the reason he didn't make it into he sat in the big leagues, the bench one day with the Brooklyn Dodgers because guess who was the shortstop at that time? Pee Wee Reese. So my dad played for Walter Alston, was his AAA manager at the time before Mr. Alston got moved up. So my dad would just tell me stories. He had glasses at the time, and they always thought that back then when you had glasses you couldn't see. So he always felt that had, sometimes at night he'd have a problem. But couldn't be more proud of a man. My
Uncles,
father. My Uncle John was also a scout with the Minnesota Twins, was a Golden Gloves champ boxer, and he was a very revered man around the Twins area. He had handled their clinics with the Minnesota Twins for like 30 years, and very well known in the Twin Cities. My grandfather had owned a sports bar, a bowling alley sports bar back in the 50s and 60s, and my Uncle John and my Uncle Jake used to run that, and all the Yankees would come into town and go to the sports bar, and all the Twins would go to the sports bar, all the traveling, mainly baseball teams would come there because we were known probably, they were known probably for a baseball family more than anything. My Uncle Hank was a boxer in service, was well known, and my Uncle Jake was, that's Joey's grandfather, was also just, high school, college, never really made it to pro ball. My father, I think, was the only one who made it to pro ball, but around the St. Paul area just were very well known for sports, and they all were coaches at the high school and college levels all over the different Twin Cities.
So your brother Mark played in Nebraska. Any of your other brothers, and you played baseball at Minnesota?
Yeah, my brother Brian played college football my brother Brian was a high school All-American. He played college football at Mankato State. He was a great offensive lineman. My brother Tommy played baseball at River Falls. Mark was probably the best athlete in the family. Mark was, Mark, they always talk about Joey Joey was a great athlete too. Joey could have played, Duke gave him a scholarship.
Joey, the baseball player.
Yeah, Duke gave him a scholarship. And then.
What sport?
For basketball.
Joe Mauer?
Oh, Joey was a great basketball player.
Wasn't he a catcher?
Great basketball player.
He played basketball?
He played in the hood. He played in the hood in St. Paul. He used to play with Central. He asked the Winfields about him, asked Frank White about him. He was a great basketball player. And then baseball, everyone knows what he did in baseball. In football,
How tall was Joe Mauer?
6'5".
So he played two guard or small forward?
He was a small forward, yeah, two guard, small forward. But then he was recruited by Florida State in his junior year. And after being the quarterback at Cretin High School, he broke every record at Cretin High School.
At quarterback?
At quarterback. And he could have played pro football. That was maybe his best sport. Winky, who is
Chris Winky.
Chris Winky. Well, Joe broke every record Chris Winky ever had. Chris was I think before Joe. And then Joe broke every record he had in his junior year. And so Chris is a great guy too. Chris was a good baseball player too, and a football player. But Joey was as good as it gets. But when I look at my brother Mark back then, I don't know that Mark had the size that Joe had, but my brother Mark was tougher than hell. And he was just ferocious. You couldn't outwork him. He was tough, and he was mentally tough, and he was good at every sport he played. And then Mark was also, he was a street fighter. Mark was a little nuts. He was
really.
I could say that now because
you know what? I think I remember him
Mark
maybe scrapping with some coaches.
Oh yeah, scrapping with people at Nebraska. He looks at it now as Mark's a little bit more mature now, and but I'm proud of him because of the way he handled himself. He didn't back down from anybody, and he was tough. And
I almost yesterday invited Rick Mentor. Was our defensive coordinator. He went on to be defensive coordinator at Notre Dame, head coach at the University of Cincinnati, coached in the NFL. But he was our defensive coordinator, and Rick lives here in Nashville. And Mark was our offensive coordinator.
I'm sure Mark.
And they were both.
Tell him.
They were both really, really talented. We were blessed to have those guys. But Mauer left. He left pretty quickly.
Yeah, he did. He was saying that. He was trying to remember the years when I was telling him about when but he like I said, he remembered you. And I'm serious. He was just saying, I remember him because of what he brought. Not only as a good player, but I didn't work directly with him because it was a lineman. But what he brought to the locker room, he used to talk about. It's so important when you have.
I definitely brought
teams.
A lot to the locker room. People love me. People love me in the locker room.
Yeah, I don't know how I should take that, but that's good.
Well, I hate to say it.
No, I think. Well, he meant it as a good thing.
No, I know it was a good thing.
Very positive.
I was in a previous life. My friends would tell you that I was the #1 bachelor party thrower in the history of America. And so I got friends that man, I'm gonna renew my vows. Could you throw me a second bachelor?
Oh boy. Just for the bachelor party, huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that was a previous life. I don't even. So,
Well,
yeah,
we've all had them, and that's so you.
that was a previous life. But what are your fondest memories? 36 years in the NBA. I mean, you've seen all the NBA. Kareem was probably still in the league when you first started.
Yes, he was.
And then all the way to today to LeBron James, you saw the heyday, the golden era up close and personal. What's your fondest memory?
I don't know really if I have a fondness. I have fond memories. I mean, I think the league has changed. The players have changed. I did come in when I was fortunate to come in with the doctor, and I came in with Bird and Magic, and I mean, come on, they exude what the NBA is all about, and the league would be. I agree what they did for the league back then, but Magic was a great guy. He was on the floor, off the floor. I mean, there's a little bit of a different air today. Although, again, even today, a lot of the players in the league, they're good people, they're good players. There's some, players that, we can be maybe difficult to handle at times. I don't know them personally and stuff, that many of them, but I mean, how can you, John Stockton, how can you, in fact, I just talked to John the other day, how can you not respect John? I don't think John, we're referees, so we're told to stay away from them. I mean, because of the integrity of the game, and I understand that, not in the same hotel, not in the same planes, just so we don't, the paranoia of people, and if you're associated with somebody, you're going to give them a call the next day. I understand the way the NBA does that. I respect that, but just to be able to go back now, I've become friends with Earl Monroe, who was always my favorite player of all time. He was my, and I was able to tell him that. I was saying, you were my favorite player of all time. And I have a poster of you hanging on my wall, of Earl Monroe, and him and Pete were my favorite players. But I was fortunate. Then Michael. I mean, people talk about Michael, and I don't like to compare players. I think that's unfair because I heard it explained by Michael one day in an interview where people are different. I mean, what would it have been like, back then in that era? How would I have played, or how would they? I think they're more athletic today. I think they're faster. They jump higher. They're quicker. I mean, but how would have Earl played back then? I don't know. How would have Kareem played? I don't know. But I've been fortunate to go to a couple of Hall of Fame dinners in Springfield, and been able to meet them. And I was wet behind the ears back then. I mean, come on, I was nothing. I was trying to get a play right, trying to avoid having to give a technical foul on probably a play I missed. So, I mean, I'm trying to get things right. And now being able to go back at them, and I always introduce myself to them in a way, hi, Kenny Mauer, because I don't want to embarrass anybody, because they aren't going to, who the hell are they going to remember me? And to a man, every one of them, Muggsy, whoever, Delco, Kenny, what are you talking about? I mean, we know there is somewhat of a family there. It really is. Especially with the older players that, I respected them, and they respected us as referees. And I know Michael did, and I know, and just, like I'll talk about the way we dress. I love clothes, and that's well known. I think it's appropriate to dress appropriately, and I'm not going to get into what people think is appropriate now. That's not my position. But I know there's different. But I mean, the way Akeem taught me how to dress, or Scottie Pippen, or Michael, or I mean, all these guys that the Admiral, or all these people that Dikembe Mutombo, the way he dressed. I mean, I sat on a plane with him, and we talk about the way people handle themselves now, and the respect that they brought to the league and stuff like that. That's, what went on this weekend. I heard some of the younger people speak. They're right. It's because of the older players. That's the way they're all reaping the rewards today. And there's no question about that. And the younger guys that have forgotten that, shame on them. But I think most of the guys get it. I think they really do.
So, as a person, again, I'm not quite your age. There's 12, 13 years difference.
I'm 66. I'm going to be 67 in April.
Okay. Yeah, I'm April as well.
You're a Taurus, I hear.
Yeah. But would you not have to, and this is giving the younger guys the benefit of the doubt, that if you dumped the kind of money on Magic and Isaiah and Larry Bird and all the, guys are making 20, 30 million, guys sitting on the bench are making $3, $4, $5, $6, $8 million a year. if you dump that kind of money into the NBA in the 80s, don't you think the attitude of the players, because to me, there's such a great, the players playing now, making $20, $30 million a year, and the ref who's making $200,000 to $500,000 a year. That's a mammoth difference. And the players are living this very sheltered, pampered, and not that Magic and those guys weren't, but it ain't like it is today where it's everybody on the team. And so don't you think perhaps that's the difference, is that, or at least some of, maybe not all, but some of the difference, just the amount of money these guys are making, and literally, just like you're saying, the smart ones realize they're making this money not because of what they did, it's because of what someone else did.
Well, I look at what I made back then and what I make now. I don't know that I'm any different. I look at what I don't know what they made. It's not important. But what Magic or Michael or whatever made, Michael probably never made as much as he was worth. But then that was insane. What's going on now is insane. I don't know what's going to happen 20 years from now. I don't know what insanity that's going to be. They're paid what evidently the market says they're worth. I've never looked at it from even my standpoint for money, but I'm sure, I don't speak for any of these people. Larry would say I made a lot of money then, and back then that was a lot of money. I mean, you go back and an actor, whatever he made back then that was a lot of money compared to now. I just think the mentality might be a little bit different then as it is now, with the players and with the people and how they react to the players. I mean, I don't, nowadays, it's definitely a players' league now. It's definitely.
Yeah, because all the players, virtually all of them, but particularly the top 5 on each team, basically, they're their own individual corporations.
I know.
Because it's not just the money the league pays them. For a LeBron James and a lot of these, Kevin Durant, the shoe companies are paying them far more than even the league. And so there are many corporations who are trying to be movie executives, music executives, TV executives, where, not that Magic and these guys weren't dabbling in a few other things, but their primary focus was just on being a great basketball player.
Well, that's right. That's what I was going to say. And I can only speak for myself. And when we go on the floor as referees, I could care less what they make. I could care less about, the deal that they have pending, or I could care less really what happened the last game, other than if it has an effect on the game that I'm going to referee with, if they're playing the same team, the same player, whatever. You know what I'm talking about. But I just never allowed myself to worry about that when I was young or even now, because I'm not going to take away the pureness from the game. That's the game, and I love the game, and I love the sport, and when all of that gets in the way of the game, that's when the problems occur. And the politicalness of what's going on, or the money, or the politics involved behind whatever, and that's something I never was involved in, never want to be involved in. That's not me. But that's what hurts society.
I want to take a small little break, tell our viewers about Policy Genius, but when we come back, not to get overly political, but the politics in the NBA have changed, and I want to talk about that a little bit with you. But if someone relies on your financial support, whether it's a child, aging parent, or even a business partner, you need life insurance. Having coverage through your job may not be enough. Most people need up to 10 times more to properly provide for their loved ones. That's why you need to see our friends over at Policy Genius. Head over to policygenius.com/fearless and answer a few questions about yourself. In minutes, you can work out how much life insurance coverage you need and compare personalized quotes to find your best price. You could save 50% or more on life insurance by comparing quotes with Policy Genius. The Policy Genius team works for you, not the insurance companies. They offer unbiased help and they advocate for you at every step of the way. Policy Genius doesn't sell your info to third parties. Since 2014, they've helped over 30 million people get the best possible plan for themselves and their families. Head to policygenius.com/fearless to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. More with Ken Maurer next.
We must exist in a state of man glorious, as we are protected by the red, the white, and the blue. But remember, the mind is the key. The fearless soldier pledges to place God first and foremost in his everyday endeavors of life. We, the fearless army, are one nation under God, indivisible, with freedom and a belief in the American dream. The men bold enough to join our movement comprise what we like to call the New Dream Team. We are leaders of our families, our churches, and of this nation. We reject the seeds of division that are planted by corporate media misinformation. We affirm that all men are created equal and are endowed with inalienable rights, which are granted by our Heavenly Father. We are bound by honor to accept God's challenge, to take the flag and lead, to cherish, to protect, and to nurture the life of our unborn seed. I am a fearless soldier, so shed no tears for me. I am not a victim. I am the man that God made me to be. Amen.
All right, welcome back. Our final segment with Ken Maurer. Ken, thank you so much for coming to Nashville. Got to meet your wife. We got to have dinner. Got to have a really long, nice discussion. And just, you know, you guys, the audience, are listening to it right now, hearing Ken talk about his faith. Ken and I talked about it a great deal yesterday, and it made me ask and want to ask again the very obvious question, because I think a lot of our worldview is similar, but you're working in the NBA. I'm working here at the Blaze. I get to wear my faith on my sleeve. I get to wear my worldview on my sleeves. In the NBA, the kind of faith you're talking about you have, the NBA seems very secular. They climbed into bed, particularly during the bubble year, with the Black Lives Matter movement. How did you handle that? How did you feel about that?
Well, I think if you are sincere about your faith, I believe everything should run through your belief. How do you treat people? How do you treat your family? How do you treat the guy at work? How do you treat the guy across the street? How do you treat the guy you meet in an airport? If you treat people and think, I try to run it through my Christian beliefs and my faith and the way I feel about God and how God treats people. And it sounds corny. And in the business I'm in, it's sometimes talking to people like this sounds corny. I know it doesn't with you. That's why I'm comfortable talking about it. But yeah, when it came time to Black Lives Matter, I think, I'm not going to speak for anybody, but with the NBA and its people, I know people outside of the NBA that would talk to me every day on the streets, they didn't quite understand what I hope the NBA was trying to say. Because, yeah, I referee in a league where it's predominantly black. I mean, okay, so what? I mean, I'm not going to get into how I was raised and all that stuff. I'm not going to get into that. Because I don't have to. I refuse to get into that discussion. Racism to me is ignorance. I'm not even going to go there. And people that know me know that. But when it came down to Black Lives Matter, referees that I've dealt with my whole life, my friends, people I've grown up with, I could really give a hoot and heck whether they're black or white or red or green or whatever. But if you're looking at it from your faith, all lives matter. And I know in the NBA, people got in trouble for saying that. White people got in trouble for saying that. And I don't care. I'm not going to, I refuse to not say that. That's wrong. I believe all lives matter, which includes black lives. But Black Lives Matter is a Marxist communist organization that is evil. And it's against everything I believe in. Well, I'm not going to go politically, but religiously. So why would I condone, or why would I, popularize that whole theme? Referees in the bubble were asked, I wasn't there. I was having surgery on my hip. And referees.
So you missed the whole bubble thing.
I missed the whole bubble.
God was looking out for you.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. The guys went through hell. I mean, literally. I mean, they what they were asked to do, and they did a hell of a job, and they worked games, and they were away from their families, and everybody, players, everybody in that bubble, they should be commended. And the NBA did the best they could. I'm not saying that, but they were asked something, kneeling before a game. Well, I would never have done that. I will never do that, ever. Never, ever. But why? It wasn't that you were against Black Lives. You're against Black Lives Matter. The organization, the criminal Marxist, commie, whatever. And I don't think white folk to this day understand that. I just don't, Jason. They don't.
I don't know if black people understand it, to be quite honest with you, because I've been having this conversation and trying to explain to people like, hey man, the people that founded this said they're Marxists.
Yes.
They wrote on their website they want to disrupt the nuclear family. If you're a Christian,
yes,
God put family at the center of your existence and relationship with Him, and they're trying to disrupt that. And so,
as a Christian,
take off your racial blinders. Quit looking at life as I'm a black person, or I'm a white person, or I'm trans this, I'm trans. If you're a Christian, your initial thoughts, I'm a Christian. How does God feel about this? Are these principles and things they're advocating consistent with God's vision of life? And if it's a Marxist organization, and Marxism and communism go hand in hand, and they're hostile to religious faith, you have no choice. And so I sit there and go, wow, God was looking out for you. You had surgery.
If you run everything in your life through that way of thinking, really kind of makes it easy, doesn't it? It makes your decisions easy. I'm not saying from looking at it through another person's eyes, who then might come back and call you racial. And I've always said that not all, I never say all, but the majority of people who call someone a racist are usually racist themselves. And there was a referee on our staff that in a meeting said that if you're black, you can't be racist. I don't understand that way of thinking, because there's good and bad people in every culture and every race, and it was just an idiotic statement. But I mean, I refuse to go down that path. Everything comes through, as you said, through your religious and through your God-given faith. You're allowed to choose whatever faith you want. And if you are truly a Christian and truly a faith-bearing man, you would not become involved with. I see white people on marches and picket and protests with Black Lives Matter movement. They have no idea what it even means. And yet they're marching on this following. I will never be a follower. I'll never be that follower. I want to research enough to find out what's going on with something like the pandemic, with something like Black Lives Matter, with something like, and then I'll make the decisions for myself on what I choose to do with my life. And if it's all run through and based on your faith in God, then you know what? It makes it easy. I mean, you're going to be criticized, but it makes it easy.
Here's what amazes me is that I'll hear people claim to be Christian.
Oh boy.
But their reaction to you could be based on, well, how do you feel about Black Lives Matter? And it's like, well, hold on, you're a Christian,
right?
and you're not asking people, how do you feel about Jesus Christ? And let that be your common ground,
Right.
and let that be the deciding factor. But because again, this happens to me because I've been an outspoken critic of Black Lives Matter because it contradicts my biblical worldview. And that has nothing to do, I want to be crystal clear. My worldview is biblical.
We're in biblical times right now.
Right, but
huge.
My actions are sinful because, again, that's why I'm a Christian, because I'm trying to combat my sinful nature. And so what I'm saying is my worldview is biblical. And so my opinions, I try, whether I live up to all the things that I believe or whatever, that's a tough hill to climb. Only one person, Jesus Christ, has ever climbed it without a mistake. The rest of us make plenty of them. But I've just been amazed at the people that throw their religious beliefs to the side, and it's, how do you feel about Black Lives Matter? And it's been a question asked to me, and I've been criticized because I'm not in support of it. And to watch, to watch what went on in the bubble and only have one NBA player, Jonathan Isaac, stand his ground and stand on his faith, you can't tell me there's, I think, 450 NBA players. He can't be the only one claiming to be a Christian.
It wouldn't have looked good, and that's why they put their persona ahead of their Christian faith. And the reason, let me back up. The reason somebody comes back at you and brings up Black Lives Matters, they're looking for a reason to denounce your faith. They're looking for a reason to poke holes in your Christian faith. That's how they poke holes in religious exemptions. That's what they did to my dear friend Leroy Richardson. That's what they do. They don't want to talk about your religious faith. They don't want to talk about, tell me why you think tell me what makes you a religious human being. Instead, they're going to try to bring up politics or bring up something like Black Lives Matter to punch holes. Well, he thinks this. He's got political beliefs. Therefore, he can't have a religious faith. It's absurd. It's absurd.
So you missed the bubble, but the NBA has come out as, really woke and social justice warrior and pro-Black Lives Matter. Did it have any impact on relationships between referees? Because I think there's 75 or so NBA referees, and about half of them are Black. How did the NBA's political move promote unity or division within referees?
Division. And they won't like that I said that, and referees will not admit that. There was a call, I can't remember if it was before or right after Black Lives Matter, I can't remember, but I mean after
George Floyd?
After the bubble.
Oh.
We had a conference call, and it was the entire NBA staff, some people from management, some people from the G League, some people from whatever, supervisor. I don't know, there was probably over 150 people on it, whatever. And the title of the call was Black Lives Matter. It was 5 hours and 26 minutes long.
The title of the call?
Black Lives Matter.
NBA referees?
Yes.
Because you were going to referee the George Floyd trial, or what?
You know what? I don't know what
playing a
precipitated
critical
I
role.
don't know what precipitated the call. All I know is it was one of the worst experiences I had ever experienced as a professional referee, because when one or two white referees tried to say something that was one man said, "Gentlemen, I'm with you. I understand your situation. I don't understand your plight because I'm not Black, but I've been with you for 30 years, 40 years. I understand, please. However, you can't possibly think what's going on with the rioting and looting in Minneapolis is right." People just blew up on him. I mean, literally blew up. I mean, 3 or 4 or 5 people, I thought they were in their homes, it was on a Zoom, were probably going through this and just berating this man for his...
Because he said rioting can't be defended.
You can't possibly tell me that you agree with the rioting and the looting that's taken place in Minneapolis. I recorded the call. So I mean, it's, you can listen to it for yourself. And they just boom. And so very few white referees said anything on the call. And some of the Black referees on this, they're great people. I mean, I wish, I wanted, wasn't time to say anything, but I wanted to say, why? This does not help us. This divides us. And yet, everybody was, filing their laundry, talking about things when they were pulled over and individual instances that they had with policemen. It was just a session where you could all voice your whatever, and I don't think it helped. Well, I know it didn't. I mean, they can say whatever they want. They can hide whatever they want, but I know that it's not, it didn't help the staff it separated the staff. I like to think it's better now. I hope it is. I haven't been around for a few months now, but I hope it is. I pray that it is, but that just wasn't a good thing. And for them to think that's a good thing, to me, is, I just can't believe it.
Yeah, I can't understand why NBA referees, they blow a whistle and call fouls and travelings on NBA games, why they have to have a Black Lives Matter meeting. I don't. It's been prevalent within the social justice and all that's been very prevalent. And again, I refuse to go down that road. I refuse to discuss it. As I've said before, racism is ignorance. I refuse to acknowledge that because I wasn't raised that way. I'm not going down that road. I'm not even going to talk about it because then you should be doing more to help other people. We know you're not. Can we do? Well, my actions are going to speak for myself. And the way I treat people and the way I treat men and women in general of all color is going to speak for myself. One thing I think a lot of times people have problems understanding, particularly from athletes, and particularly athletes of our generation and before, that people actually get involved with athletics as a way of promoting racial equality, racial reconciliation, better racial harmony. That's one of the, obviously you get involved because you're athletic, but when you're a coach, a lot of guys look at that as their ministry and their way of promoting diversity or whatever, and exposing their kids to people from other walks of life and people that don't look like them and people that are rural or urban or whatever. And so the athletes, because again, I knew your brother since I was a kid. He was our offensive coordinator. I was offensive lineman. He played at Nebraska. People that got involved with athletics because of all the diversity, and they made friends across racial lines or whatever. And then they get here to 2020, 2021, and 2022, and people are like saying, you guys are the problem. And that's where I think people get very defensive. It's like when you spent your whole life in the NBA, 75, 80% black players, and there's definitely black people with powerful positions within the NBA. Again, you think of yourself, whether right or wrong, as part of the solution. And then you have outsiders, a group of trained Marxists, lesbians, wagging their finger at you, your race is just because of the color of your skin. I'm pure and I have no racism, no bias because of the color of my skin. And I could imagine for someone like yourself, Ken, that was actually alive when Dr. King was around. Wonderful. And it's like, we've betrayed. I thought we were all headed one direction, and here out of nowhere with a snap of a finger, they're sending us a whole different direction. It's like, hey, I thought we were embracing our Christianity and we weren't prioritizing skin color. We were prioritizing content of character. And so I get why it's frustrating and can lead to, and I don't understand why, and again, I'm sure it wasn't all of your colleagues, but I just don't understand why people can't see that and can't relate to that. And I could never imagine, just as a man, because these are mostly men, I could not imagine getting on a conference call and bitching and complaining about Nobody knows the troubles I've seen. As a man, I couldn't do it.
There were people on the call that were complaining. I didn't even know who they were. They were in their second and third year in the league, and they were complaining about. I go, do you know what all of us that are veterans had to go through to get? I mean, we're all in a position where we all should be pretty lucky to be even on the call, and it's just, yeah, evidently somebody thought that was a cleansing seminar. So I don't know, but I mean, I just disagree with some. Yeah. And I refuse to go down that road, that white privilege. I refuse to go down that road. I'm going to lead by example, and I'm going to treat people the way I've always treated people. I'm going to lead the life. I just, hopefully by example. And again, if I can help in any other way, but sometimes, again, they try to be politically correct in what they're doing, and it's backfired on them a few times. It's backfired, and it's going to backfire on them again and people do see it. And there are people, both white and black referees, that I know didn't agree with some of that, or that don't agree with, and I don't know, they're afraid to speak up. They're afraid to say something. And I'm sure there'll be people that'll criticize me, Jason, for me talking to you. And do you really, if people don't speak up and say, this has been the greatest experience, last night, I mean, this is what we have to do more of, and quit talking about all the, you owe me somethings. Again, I hope I'm putting it the right way. You speak eloquently better than I do, but I refuse to go down that road. I'm not doing it.
Well, I'm going to end this topic on this note, and then we'll transition into something lighter to wrap up the interview. But, you know, what I would say is, and, you know, just me understanding you as an athlete and being involved in athletics your whole life, you could sit here and rattle off your racial resume. I did this, and I was friends with this person, and I helped this kid, and I through athletics I've done. You could rattle all that off, but never do it, because the only legitimate, authentic thing that needs to be said is, I'm a follower of Jesus Christ.
That's it. Everything runs through that.
And if they can't understand what that means and what that signifies, you'll never get it through to them.
It's not worth talking to them about it.
Yeah. And so being a follower of Jesus Christ does not make you perfect, but when your eyes have been truly open and you start seeing people as Christ followers, Christ creations, the race thing just becomes less and less important.
Right.
And it's the people that actually are non-believers. That's why they've prioritized all these other things. Who you having sex with, what color your skin is, do you feel like a woman even though you're a man? All these things, rather than seeing themselves as a reflection of God and Jesus Christ and looking for that in other people, they're worried about who you're banging. And when you do bang, where do you take it? I mean, it's crazy. It's satanic. And so
It's satanic. They can't talk about themselves. That's why they have to make you the bad guy. That's all.
I want to end on a lighter note.
Please.
Because the craziest thing that we talked about over the past 2 days, I want you to guess what I think the craziest thing is you told me.
Craziest thing I told you?
It's crazy, in my view.
Well, there's been probably a few of them, but I mean, I don't think you're going to make...
You love Russell Westbrook. You're a huge defender of Russell Westbrook. And I'm like, stop it, man.
Well, I'm not afraid to say, I mean, I don't like to talk negatively about players in general, because I think players, I don't know them personally, and on the floor, hopefully isn't always a direct reflection of what they are, although oftentimes it is. But I just think, basically I do the best. I think early on in my career, I was one of the worst at communicating with players, the worst, because I was, hitting and throwing people, and probably for plays that I missed, and I didn't have a great rapport. And some of the veteran referees sat down and told me, hey, listen, you know what? Listen first, and then don't be in such a hurry to tell them and so I did that. And so I gradually, and I have a pretty good rapport with players, I think. I mean, I'm sure there's a few that probably would disagree, but I have a damn good rapport with players. And I've always thought a lot of him. I'm not here to name a lot of players. I think Jimmy Butler is a fantastic basketball player. I think Steph Curry, look what he did the other night. I mean, there's great players. And I just always wrestle with me. And with a lot of the referees, you know, hey, he takes his medicine, and we miss plays on him, and he'll get his technical fouls and whatever the case may be, but he's been respectful of my profession and of our profession. And when a player from the beginning of time with me is respectful of my profession, I give them their due. And Russell has always been that way.
When you told me that at dinner,
It's the truth. That's just the way I feel.
it shook me up because I'm not a fan of Westbrook's, but you're making me reconsider.
I'm telling you, that guy, I mean, a lot of the players, players that constantly complain at every play, well, they just got it's going in one ear out the other. I mean, you aren't even processing it. But I used to say that, like the Pat Rileys of the world, or the John Stocktons of the world, or the Allen Houstons of the world. When they said something and complained about something, I didn't have to wait till I got to the tape. I already knew I kicked the heck out of it. I already knew, because they didn't say it very often. So I already knew that I missed that play. And 9 out of 10 times they were right. But when you get players that constantly say something all the time, I mean, do they really think we're listening? Referees aren't listening. Well, Russell's never been that way. He gets plays, he's like Shaq. Plays we'd miss on him. And we'd miss on him because he was so strong, he'd finish, he'd get fouled, and we'd miss plays on him. And I'd go back and look at plays, and I'd come to him after the game, I'd come to him after this in the second half. I missed that play. I kicked the heck out of that play. You got fouled. I missed it. And I don't know. I like to think he's that way with a lot of referees. I would hope he was. And I'm not just trying to signal Russell. There's a lot of players that are in this same mold that they're
you told me some other
They're all
ones.
men out there.
Yeah.
They take their hits and they get up.
You told me some others, but the Westbrook thing surprised me. I'm glad you told me that.
Evidently, maybe you think differently, but that's okay.
Yeah, I'm glad you told me that. I needed to hear that. I needed someone to shake up my narrative on Russell.
Good.
Now, the other, you refed. You refed the 2011? Were you involved in the Miami Heat Dallas Mavericks series? Is that what?
Yes. Yeah. Oh yeah. I was involved in that. Yeah, I was involved with that. I was also people always ask me my favorite game. I worked the game when Ray hit the shot, against the Spurs. That was a game 6. That was always something that I'll remember for a lot of reasons, because I was with Joey and Duke, and they're both good friends, good referees, and we had a good time. But I remember when I was sitting next to Duke, I think, and people after the third quarter were leaving. They were literally, they were walking up the ramps, and they were going out the doors, and then when they went out the doors, once it's locked, you can't get back in. And we both looked at each other and said, they think this is over. I said, I don't know. I don't think this is over yet. And, for whatever reason, it was a heck of a game. It was a great game. And, I'm sure the Spurs think that was one that got away from them, and whatever the reason was, it was just a heck of a game. But yeah, I think my first finals game, I'm trying to remember, because I honestly don't keep track of this stuff, but I think was the first one, because I remember I worked with Danny Crawford, who's a heck of a referee, heck of a guy, and Jackie Neese, also a guy I respected quite a bit, and that was 2006, when I think they beat the Mavericks that year. I think it was Miami and the Mavericks in 2006. So there's just been a lot, there's been a lot of good memories and a lot of great games. And
you refed Michael Jordan's return from his first retirement, correct?
Yes.
I was at that game as well. I worked that game as well. Yeah, in Indianapolis. Yeah.
I'll never forget that. Well, who in the sport doesn't respect him? Of course. But we didn't know he was coming. That was just another game. I was on the road. I was on a 12-day trip, whatever, We get a call the next night saying, just to give you a heads up, might be a little different tomorrow night. Rumor has it Mike is going to play. And that's all they told us. Well, you get to the arena an hour, 2 hours before the game, it was packed. And then you walk into the arena an hour before the game, the place is already sold out. That was what Mike brought to the game. It was wonderful to see him back. And I remember, I think they got beat that game, if I remember right. I think Indiana beat them that game. But it was just, it was something, a young kid like me will always remember.
Well, Ken, I know you've heard this before. You look like the referee version of Pat Riley. Has people have told you that?
Yeah, a few times. I told
The
Pat,
short Pat Riley.
Pat, I used gel. I used gel before you did, Pat. Let's make sure we understand. We kid about that all the time. He, again, a guy that on the sidelines, he says something, you listen, because he coached and he didn't get on referees. He coached, and I've always had a lot of respect for him. Who doesn't, of course? I still call his wife all the time. He gets mad at me. I still call her Mrs. Riley, because you got to remember, I met him when I was, and he gets mad. He says, her name. I said, no, her name is Mrs. Riley, and she's a very nice lady. I say hi to him all the time when I go in, and he's just, yeah, Pat and I, we used to, funny thing though, we don't talk about, I love the way, he always was a very clean, very sharp dresser, but he likes Bruce Springsteen. And I like Bruce Springsteen. So we would talk about Bruce Springsteen all the time. And we'd be on the side, he'd say, he's in Hartford tonight. Yeah, I know. He's there for 3. He's got a 3-day. We'd joke about that during the game. And that was something that just we, to this day, always still talk about.
Well, Ken, thank you so much for the time.
I've enjoyed it, Jason, very much.
Really appreciate it. This was interesting. I'll be rooting for you, because you could probably break Joey Crawford and Dick Pavetta's record. I think they put 38 years in.
It never was that important to me to do that, because I don't care about that stuff, and I don't think Joey and Dick did either. I don't care. It was brought to my attention that that a while ago, and I still may do it after I win this appeal, who knows? Maybe I'll still do it.
Thank you for the time. I hear tomorrow playing. That means we'll see you tomorrow.